Tim, coming to you again from Lomita and Bend United Methodist Churches in Central Texas, staying faithful to the United Methodist Church, who brought us up and raised us and gave us birth. We are talking about Easter. This is Holy Week. We had Palm Sunday this morning and preparing for Easter. If Easter didn't come, then we would not have the story of Jesus. Jesus would have been a good man. He would have been a faith healer. He would have been a great teacher, but he wouldn't have been the Son of God. Part of being the Son of God was that God had a plan by which to demonstrate his great love and acceptance of people, that Jesus was willing to go to the cross. Jesus walked among us, and we could look at Jesus and say that there's somebody special there that is different than every other human being, that the divine was in him, that he had the power and the wisdom and love of God, but that needed to be put to the test. And he knew that he was in opposition to the authorities, and so he went to Jerusalem for one last time, knowing that would be his last. And he was then arrested after the Thursday night Passover feast. And then he was tried on Friday morning and crucified on Friday at noon. And so 3 days later, he arose from the dead. That's 3 days as of the Jewish time, which is that Friday was one day, and Saturday is one day, and then Sunday, after the sun went down on Saturday night, it became a new day of Sunday, and so that's the 3 days rather than in clock hours. But he rose from the dead to show that he had triumphed over evil, that they had done everything they could do to him and that they could not defeat him, that he triumphed over sin, the self-willed opposing of the will of God, not being willing to listen to what God has to say about the best way to live. All this was in opposition. This was in full flower when he was tried and crucified. And he was even willing to go to the death. During the Palm Sunday event, they were trying to talk him into being a triumphant hero, to be a general, to take over. And he was stronger than that. He was not only willing to live for people, he was willing to die for people. And so he died on the cross. He could not have died in his bed in a ripe old age. That just wasn't going to happen. But the death could not be the last thing. The worst thing is never the last thing with God. God always finds a way. And that way was to raise Jesus from the dead. And because he is raised from the dead, we can believe what he taught. Because he was raised from the dead, we can believe his miracles. So we don't know how it's physically possible, but God, all things are possible through God. And the disciples saw him. They were willing to go forth into the world to tell people about Jesus, even at the cost of their own lives. People are not willing to die for a lie. And so they saw Jesus, they saw him raised from the dead, and that gave them the courage, the understanding of what he was about, to go out into the world and conquer the world for Jesus. And so the belief in Easter is fundamental. It's not about the Easter eggs. It's not about the Easter bunny. It's about Jesus doing the most amazing thing in the history of the world, and that is coming back to life, being raised by God after 3 days of being dead. And we fundamentally believe that shows that God will triumph over sin and death, and that in the end, God wins. So I hope that helps you to celebrate Easter, helps you get a perspective on Easter, and we'll see you next time.